She doubted the old legends, until the human Drew Blood Captain Elena Voss stared through the reinforced viewport of the Starhawk, her eyes scanning the chaotic surface of Zithera. The planet stretched below them like a painting from a nightmare. Jagged mountains sliced the horizon. Rivers of liquid metal glimmered faintly under violet storms, and violent winds tore across barren plains, throwing debris in every direction. Every system on the ship was alert, alarms occasionally blaring as turbulence rattled the hull. "This is insane," muttered Lieutenant Cairo, gripping the railing beside her. "I've trained for dangerous landings, but this is something else." Elena didn't reply. She had heard countless warnings about Zithera. Classified reports called it a death world, a place where no human had ever survived. Gravity was nearly twice that of Earth. The atmosphere was toxic in parts. Predators roamed every corner, each one a natural killer designed by evolution over millions of years. But this mission wasn't about comfort or survival. It was about understanding Zithera and reporting back to Earth. Every danger, every risk had a purpose. "Prepare for landing," she finally said, her voice steady, betraying none of the tension she felt. "Keep all shields at maximum and sensors online. We'll make history today, or we won't make it at all." The shuttle descended, buffeted by fierce storms that screamed against the hull. Sparks flew across the outer panels, and the crew held their positions as the landing thrusters fought against the turbulence. Finally, with a shuddering thud, the Starhawk touched the cracked obsidian-like surface of Zithera. Dust and debris whipped across the viewport, and the ship tilted slightly before stabilizing. Elena exhaled slowly. "All right, let's move out. Stay sharp." The team stepped out, boots sinking slightly into the jagged terrain. The air was thick, and even with respirators engaged, it had a metallic taste. The wind tugged at their suits, forcing them to adjust constantly. Every step was cautious. Every sound could signal danger. "This place? It doesn't feel alive," whispered Specialist Mira, her voice tense. "It feels like it's watching us." Elena didn't respond. She had felt the same thing, the way the shadows seemed to shift even when the wind was strong enough to throw dust around. Zithera was more than a hostile planet. It was a predator itself. Minutes later, the first warning appeared. A flicker of movement, almost too fast to see, darted across the jagged rocks nearby. Something was watching them. Elena motioned for her team to halt. "Everyone, eyes sharp," she said. "Don't make sudden moves. Wait for my signal." The movement returned, faster this time, a blur of muscle and reflex. Then it was gone. "Captain, what the hell was that?" Cairo asked, voice barely above a whisper. Elena shook her head. "Not sure yet, but I think we just met Zithera's real rulers. Stay alert." Suddenly, the ground around them shifted. A humanoid figure emerged from behind a jagged rock formation, moving with unnatural speed. It was tall, broad-shouldered, with limbs that seemed almost too perfect for the terrain. Its eyes glowed faintly in the storm, and its movements were fluid, deadly precise. Elena's heart skipped a beat. The reports hadn't mentioned this. No human or known alien species had survived contact with these beings. They were called the Death World or Special Forces, DSF, elite predators engineered for survival and war. Their intelligence matched their physical prowess. They didn't just hunt. They planned, adapted, and executed with lethal efficiency. "Take cover," Elena shouted, pulling her team behind a jagged boulder. The DSF advanced, seemingly aware of every movement, predicting their steps like a chess master anticipating moves. Cairo raised his pulse rifle, firing in bursts. The rounds hit the DSF but barely slowed it down. Sparks of energy flickered across its armor-like skin. It didn't retreat. It advanced. Mira's scanner beeped frantically. "Captain, it's analyzing us. Every shot we take, it adapts instantly. We need another plan." Elena's mind raced. She had trained for countless combat scenarios, but nothing like this. Their weapons, though powerful, seemed designed for conventional enemies, not predators that were both stronger and faster than any human. She knew instinctively that brute force alone would not save them. Survival required thinking like the predator, predicting its moves and finding weaknesses where none seemed to exist. The DSF lunged, moving faster than the human eye could follow. Elena rolled to the side, firing her sidearm, narrowly avoiding a strike that could have crushed her. The team scattered, dodging jagged rocks and crevices, attempting to regroup. "Fall back to the shuttle." "Fall back!" she yelled. As they ran, Elena's eyes caught something unusual, a small network of crystalline formations half buried in the jagged ground. A plan began forming in her mind. Humans weren't as strong or fast as the DSF, but they were unpredictable. They could think, improvise, and use their environment as a weapon. "Split up," she commanded. "Draw it toward the crystals. Don't fight it head-on." The team hesitated, fear flashing in their eyes, but Elena's authority was undeniable. They obeyed. 2 members ran left, luring the DSF into a narrow canyon, while Elena and the others moved toward the crystal formations, setting improvised traps and makeshift alarms. The DSF paused, studying the humans with an almost analytical curiosity. It didn't understand fear, it didn't feel it, but it recognized threat. Its head tilted slightly, calculating before deciding which human to pursue first. Suddenly, a trap triggered. A section of crystal fell with a thunderous crash, narrowly missing the DSF but forcing it to leap sideways. The humans used the moment to retreat, moving carefully but swiftly. For the first time, they saw a crack in the DSF's precision. It could be forced into reactive moves. Elena's heart pounded. She knew the first encounter was just a taste. The DSF wasn't defeated. It had observed, learned, and would return stronger. But for now, they had survived. And survival on Zithera was victory enough. She reached the shuttle, her team following, panting and exhausted. The shuttle's sensors had recorded the encounter. Every movement, every adaptation. This data could change everything humanity knew about combat, about survival, about the potential of intelligence versus raw power. Elena tapped her comlink to Earth. "Command, this is Captain Voss. First contact with DSF confirmed. They're formidable, but we're still alive. We need time to analyze their patterns and weaknesses. I repeat, we are not defeated. Humans adapt, humans endure. We'll find a way to survive." The response crackled faintly, distant but clear. "Acknowledged, Captain. Earth is monitoring. Proceed with caution. Humanity believes in your success." Elena looked out at Zithera, her eyes narrowing. The storm raged, wind screaming across jagged cliffs. Somewhere in the shadows, the DSF watched, waiting for its next move. But Elena knew this truth. The same truth every human carried deep inside. They might not be the strongest, the fastest, or the most perfectly engineered, but they had courage, creativity, and a refusal to surrender. Against all odds, humanity had survived Zithera's first day, and that, she thought, was only the beginning. The shuttle's engines hummed softly, its hull battered but intact, as Captain Elena Voss stared at the dark landscape of Zithera. The first encounter with the DEATHWORLD Special Forces, DSF, had been terrifying. But it had also taught her something crucial. Humans had one advantage no DSF could match: creativity. "We can't fight them head-on," she said to her remaining squad, gathered in the shuttle's cramped command area. "But we can outthink them. Every move they make, every pattern they follow leaves a trace. That's our way in." Lieutenant Cairo nodded, wiping sweat from his brow. "They're fast, strong, and smart. But you're right. They can't anticipate everything humans will do, not when we improvise." Mira, the team's tech specialist, activated the ship's portable scanners. The DSF's movements had been recorded. Every lunge, every step, every response was logged in high-speed data. "Captain, I've started mapping their combat behavior. If we study it carefully, we can predict their next moves, and maybe even trap one." Elena felt a surge of hope. Humans had always thrived in impossible conditions, not by being stronger, but by thinking differently. This was exactly what Zithera demanded. The plan was risky. They would return to the landing site, set up decoy routes, and test small traps, hoping to bait the DSF into exposing its limits. Every step was calculated, yet the danger was real. One wrong move, one misstep, and the entire squad could be eliminated. The first human trap hours later, the team approached the jagged canyon where the first DSF encounter had occurred. Elena crouched behind a rock formation, eyes scanning the horizon. "Remember," she whispered, "don't fire unless I give the signal. Let's see what they do when we move unpredictably." 2 team members, Scouter Rena and Engineer Holt, advanced as decoys, zigzagging across the rocks, their movements chaotic and unpredictable. From the shadows, a DSF observed, its glowing eyes tracking every motion. Then it moved, swiftly, calculating. It lunged at Rena, but she darted sideways, leading it toward a trap Holt had set earlier. A cluster of crystal shards rigged with a magnetic pulse fell with a thunderous crash. The DSF dodged but miscalculated its landing, sliding across a slick patch of alien moss. For the first time, it had been forced into error. Elena allowed herself a brief smile. Good, keep pushing. Make it think. Make it move where we want it to. They repeated the maneuver several times, learning patterns, observing reactions. The DSF adapted, but slowly. Every time it made an adjustment, the humans noted it. Each misstep was an opportunity to refine their strategy. It was exhausting work. Sweat streamed beneath helmets, muscles ached, and fear lingered in the back of every mind. But humans thrived on challenges like this, and every small success built confidence. Adapting to the predator as the day progressed, Elena realized something important. The DSF were brilliant but predictable in their perfection. Their strength was their precision, their speed, their endurance, but they relied on patterns honed by evolution and programming. Humans, however, could think in ways the DSF could not. Elena gathered the squad. Listen, she said, pointing at the digital map on the shuttle console. They react to movement, to threats, to our weapons, but they don't anticipate unpredictability. They don't expect improvisation. That's our advantage. We use the environment. We force them into traps. We make them chase shadows. Holt, adjusting his portable gear, grinned. I can rig small drones with motion sensors and decoys. Make them chase ghosts while we strike from cover. They won't know what hit them. Mira chimed in, excitement in her voice. And I can hack some of the alien sensors we captured in the first encounter. Confuse them, distort their perception. They rely on perfect information. We give them chaos instead. Elena's plan formed quickly. They wouldn't attempt to defeat the DSF in direct combat. Instead, they would turn Zithra into a living weapon, using its terrain, its hazards, and human ingenuity to create opportunities. The planet itself became part of their strategy. The first strike night fell on Zithra, the alien sky glowing with violent purple lightning. The DSF moved silently, almost invisible against the jagged landscape. Elena led her team along hidden paths, using low-gravity tunnels and crystalline caverns to stay out of sight. Then came the signal. Holt's drones activated, flashing red lights and emitting high-frequency sounds. The DSF paused, confused, scanning for the source. Elena's team moved quietly to intercept. Weapons ready, traps set. The DSF lunged at the nearest drone, only to trigger a rigged patch of Zithra moss that emitted a sticky, blinding mist. Its movement slowed, balance disrupted. Mira fired a precision pulse from her portable railgun, striking the DSF in a non-lethal area, but enough to force it further into the trap. The humans watched in tense silence as the DSF struggled against the environment, its intelligence working frantically to recover control, but it couldn't anticipate every hazard. With careful coordination, Elena and her team finally managed to corner the creature in a narrow cavern. It was a tense moment. Every human in the squad held their breath. This was not just a fight for survival. It was a proof of concept that humans could challenge the so-called invincible DEATHWORLDers. The cost of learning, even in victory, the humans knew the price of engagement. One team member, Scout Rena, had been grazed during the encounter, her armor scorched and her confidence shaken. I didn't think I'd survive that, she admitted, voice trembling. Elena placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. You did survive. That's what matters. Every encounter teaches us something. Every step we take, every trap we set, every risk we manage, it adds to our advantage. Humans adapt. That's what they don't expect. The squad spent the rest of the night repairing equipment, documenting every detail, and planning their next moves. The DSF was dangerous, but humans had shown that they were not helpless prey. Each small victory against the alien predator strengthened their resolve. Elena looked out over Zithra's jagged horizon, lightning flashing in the distance. Somewhere in that chaos, the DSF were observing, analyzing, and adapting as well. The battle was far from over, but for the first time she felt a spark of confidence that humans could survive, and perhaps even turn the tide. This is only the beginning, she whispered to herself. They think we're weak, but they haven't seen the full strength of humanity yet. We adapt, we endure, and we fight. That's why no one should underestimate us. A glimpse of hope. By the early hours of Zithra's morning, the team gathered near a hidden cave network, exhausted but alive. Mira displayed the digital scans from the DSF encounters. Patterns were emerging. Weak points, behavioral quirks, predictable reactions. They were small, but enough to plan the next engagement. Elena smiled faintly. We're learning. Every moment we survive, we learn. The DSF thinks they are perfect. But humans are unpredictable. That is our edge. That is why we will endure where others would fall. Outside, Zithera's storms continued to rage, but the humans had carved a small foothold. Their weapons were ready, their traps set, and their minds sharp. The battle for survival had only begun, but humanity had proven something vital. Cleverness, courage, and adaptability could challenge even the deadliest force in the galaxy. For the first time since arrival, Elena felt something like hope. And in that hope, she found strength, the kind that would carry her and her squad through the dangers of Zithera and beyond. The DSF may have been unstoppable in strength and speed, but humans had something no engineered predator could replicate. A mind that refuses to surrender, a spirit that refuses to yield, and the courage to fight against impossible odds. And that, she knew, was only the beginning of humanity's story on Zithera. Zithera's storms had calmed slightly, but the air was still heavy with tension. Captain Elena Voss and her squad huddled inside the jagged cave network, their faces illuminated by the soft glow of emergency lights. Supplies were low, and the adrenaline from the first successful trap had faded, leaving a raw awareness of the dangers that still lay ahead. We've learned a lot, Elena said quietly, addressing the team. But Zithera isn't done with us. The DSF are watching, learning, adapting. Every step we take has to count. Every risk has to be calculated. Specialist Holt adjusted his scanner. They're clever, Captain. Smarter than anything we've seen before. They'll start predicting our traps soon if we're not careful. Elena nodded, her jaw tight. Which means we have to evolve faster than they do. Adaptation is our weapon. Ingenuity is our shield. Her words were steady, but inside she felt a gnawing fear. Unlike previous enemies humanity had faced, the DSF were relentless. They didn't feel pain. They didn't hesitate, and they didn't retreat. One mistake, one slip could cost lives. A harsh lesson. The team set out cautiously, moving along narrow ridges that overlooked Zithera's deadly valleys. The plan was simple. Scout ahead, map terrain hazards, and anticipate any DSF patrols. But simplicity on a death world was a dangerous illusion. It happened fast. 1 second, the team was crossing a rocky plateau. The next, a DSF ambush erupted from the shadows. Elena shouted a warning, but the lightning-fast predator had already targeted Rena, the scout. A brief, brutal encounter left Rena injured, her armor scorched, and her spirit shaken. Rena, fall back, Elena yelled, pulling her comrade behind a jagged boulder. Caro fired at the DSF, but their energy blasts only grazed the alien's reinforced skin. It didn't retreat. It adjusted instantly, its movements fluid, almost anticipating every action. The humans barely escaped with their lives. Holt and Mira dragged Rena back to the shuttle, her breathing heavy, eyes wide with shock. The encounter left no doubt. Zithera and the DSF did not forgive mistakes. Elena surveyed the aftermath, heart pounding. This is why bravery comes at a cost, she muttered. Every step forward has a price, but each loss teaches us something. Humans endure because we learn, even when the odds seem impossible. Learning through sacrifice. That night, the cave network was quiet, broken only by the distant rumble of Zithera's storms. Rena lay resting, bandaged and exhausted, while the rest of the team gathered around the shuttle's holographic displays. They analyzed every detail of the ambush, DSF behavior, movement patterns, reaction times. Elena spoke softly. Every Death World encounter tests us, and every injury reminds us that survival is not free. But we are learning faster than they are. We are unpredictable. That's our edge, Holt nodded. They're strong, but we're clever. Each misstep we study, every strategy we refine, it builds a blueprint for survival. Even in the face of danger, the human spirit thrived. Each challenge strengthened their resolve. The DSF were relentless predators, yes, but humans were resilient, resourceful, and adaptive. They might suffer losses, but each sacrifice added to the knowledge that could turn the tide. Elena's gaze hardened. Tomorrow we strike smarter, not harder. We use Zithera's terrain, the environment, and our minds. That's how humans survive where others fail. The next encounter, The following day, the team moved cautiously to higher ground, mapping the jagged cliffs and deep chasms. They set traps along narrow ridges and planted decoy signals in the caves below, hoping to force the DSF into predictable mistakes. Hours passed in tense silence. Then the DSF appeared, moving almost invisibly across the rocky terrain. It spotted the decoy first and lunged, but the humans were ready. A combination of explosive triggers and collapsing rock formations slowed the predator, forcing it into a confined space where its speed and strength were less effective. Elena and Cairo moved with precision, keeping distance while coordinating pulse shots and controlled distractions. The DSF roared, a sound unlike any human predator, a mixture of intelligence and instinct. But it was trapped, if only temporarily. Holt whispered, "We're doing it. We're learning its limits." Elena nodded, her eyes never leaving the DSF. "Remember, we survive not because we are invincible, but because we refuse to stop learning no matter what it costs." The price of victory. The encounter ended with the DSF retreating, wounded but not defeated. The humans had won a small victory, but at a cost. Fatigue, injuries, and the constant pressure of being hunted. Every member of the squad felt the weight of their mortality, but none of them wavered in their determination. Mira spoke quietly, almost to herself. "They're perfect killers, but they don't understand fear. They don't understand hope. That's what humans have." Elena placed a hand on Mira's shoulder. "Exactly. Fear teaches us caution. Hope gives us strength. And together, they make humans capable of surviving where others fail." Even in the darkness of Zithera, surrounded by storms and predators, the humans found a glimmer of confidence. They had proven they could survive even against the most deadly hunters in the galaxy, and each encounter taught them more about how to fight back, how to predict and how to endure. Human spirit in action. The night deepened, and the team gathered near the cave entrance. They shared stories of past battles, of Earth legends and human ingenuity, reminding themselves why they fought. Zithera was a deadly teacher, but humanity had a unique gift, the ability to adapt, improvise, and endure against impossible odds. Elena gazed at the jagged horizon. "They think we are weak," she said softly. "They see us as prey. But we are more than that. We are humans. We endure, we learn, we fight. And that is why no species, no matter how perfect, should ever underestimate us." Cairo, surveying the dark valleys below, added, "We may suffer losses, but every step forward is proof of our strength. They can't break our spirit, and they can't predict our courage." Even Rena, bandaged and exhausted, managed a faint smile. "Then let them come," she whispered. "We'll be ready. We always are." Elena's heart swelled with pride. On Zithera, a planet designed to kill, humans had found their advantage: resilience, intelligence, and the refusal to surrender. Each hardship, each loss was not the end. It was a lesson, a warning to the galaxies. The humans rested for the night. Elena sent a brief transmission to Earth. "Zithera is lethal, but humans are enduring. Every encounter with the DSF teaches us more about survival, strategy, and adaptability. We are not invincible, but we are unyielding. Humanity's spirit cannot be underestimated. We survive and we adapt. That is our greatest weapon." The message crackled through the void of space, carrying hope and warning alike. Across the galaxy, other species might look at humans as fragile, unprepared or weak, but here on Zithera, they learned the truth. Humans endure when others would fall, and they thrive because of courage, creativity, and willpower. Elena sat quietly, looking out at the jagged landscape, the storm clouds swirling in violet chaos. Zithera had tested them, wounded them, and forced them to confront death itself. Yet in every trial, humanity had found strength, proving a simple but powerful truth. The cost of bravery is high, but the reward is survival, and no one can endure like humans. The DSF would return, stronger and more aware, but humanity was ready. Each encounter was a lesson, each strategy a step forward, and each human heart a source of unbreakable strength. Zithera was a death world, but humans were not just surviving. They were learning to dominate in ways no one had expected, and that knowledge, that ingenuity, was only the beginning. Zithera's violet storms had begun to subside, leaving a sharp, cold calm over the jagged landscape. Captain Elena Voss and her squad moved silently through the twisting ridges, carrying supplies, traps, and portable scanners. The first encounters had taught them something critical. Humans could survive the DEATHWORLD or Special Forces, DSF, not through brute strength, but through strategy, adaptability, and cunning. Elena gathered her team at a narrow canyon. "This is it," she whispered. "We know their patterns. We know their strengths and weaknesses. Today we take control. Today we turn Zithra itself into our weapon." Specialist Mira checked the holographic map projected from the shuttle. "We've set decoy signals, motion traps, and energy pulses along the canyon walls. Any DSF movement should trigger multiple distractions simultaneously." Holt adjusted the timing mechanisms on the improvised explosives. "Once they enter the trap zone, they won't know what's coming. The terrain works for us now, not against us." Cairo, scanning the ridges for potential ambush points, added, "They've adapted to our previous tricks. But we've adapted faster. They don't expect unpredictability, human unpredictability. That's the edge we have," Elena nodded. "Exactly. Humans endure because we learn. Today we fight not to survive, but to show them that humanity cannot be underestimated." The DSF approaches hours passed. The team remained hidden, waiting in tense silence. Then in the distance, shadows moved across the canyon floor. The DSF had arrived. Its movements were precise, fluid, and silent, scanning the terrain with glowing eyes. The humans held their positions. The DSF lunged at the first decoy, triggering a chain of events. Crystalline panels along the canyon walls shattered, releasing blinding energy flashes. Hidden moss pits exuded thick, sticky fumes, slowing the DSF's movement. Every obstacle was a trap, carefully coordinated to force the predator into predictable zones. Elena whispered into her comm, "Hold position. Let it make the first moves. Timing is everything." The DSF paused, recalculating. It roared, a sound that echoed through the canyon, deep and intelligent. But it was already caught in the web of human ingenuity. Every leap, every lunge, every strike was anticipated and countered by traps, drones, and coordinated attacks. Human strike, Elena and Cairo moved along a hidden ledge above the canyon, coordinating pulse shots to force the DSF further into the trap. Mira activated a drone swarm, small but fast, emitting distracting lights and noises. Holt triggered timed rock collapses that forced the DSF into narrow crevices. The predator struggled, its intelligence and physical power countered at every turn. For the first time, the DSF's movements showed hesitation. Humans had turned the hunter into prey, exploiting the environment, timing, and ingenuity. Elena's heart raced. "This is what survival looks like," she murmured. "We endure, we adapt, and we fight smarter than the strongest enemy." The team worked in perfect coordination. Each human action complemented another. Pulse shots, traps, drones, and environmental hazards combined to create a battlefield designed to neutralize the DSF's advantages. A human triumph. The DSF lunged one final time, attempting to escape the trap zone, but it had no way out. A combination of falling crystals, sticky moss, and precision strikes slowed it enough for Elena to confront it directly. Her pulse rifle aimed carefully. She fired non-lethal shots that disrupted the DSF's balance. The predator roared in frustration, momentarily stunned. For a fleeting moment, it seemed almost human in its confusion. "This is it," Elena whispered. "We've forced it to adapt to us now." The DSF retreated, wounded but not defeated. It had learned from the encounter, but so had the humans. Every trap, every tactic, every improvisation had been a lesson, showing the true strength of human ingenuity. Elena turned to her team. "We survived, yes, but more importantly, we proved something. Humans can outthink the strongest, outlast the fastest, and endure the impossible. That is why no one should underestimate us. The cost of strategy, even in victory, the humans felt the strain. Energy levels were low, injuries were being tended, and the constant tension had taken its toll." Rena, still recovering from her earlier injury, helped Mira adjust the drone systems. Cairo checked the perimeter while Holt reset the explosive triggers for future encounters. Elena addressed the team. "This is Zithra. It's not going to let us win easily. Every encounter teaches us, but it also reminds us of what we're risking. Each injury, each mistake, is a cost we accept because we endure. Humans endure. That is our gift." Mira smiled faintly. "We may be weaker physically, but our minds are weapons. The DSF don't understand that yet." Elena nodded. "And that's why they will never truly defeat us. Not as long as humans are willing to think, adapt, and fight." Planning for the future, the humans spent the next hours mapping Zythera's terrain, setting additional traps and analyzing the DSF's behavior. Every observation was turned into a strategy, every mistake into a lesson. The team had learned something crucial. Survival was not about avoiding danger, but about controlling it. Elena gathered the squad. Tomorrow we continue. We push further, use the terrain more, and refine our strategies. Each encounter is another step toward survival, toward dominance. Humans adapt, we endure, we learn. And that makes us stronger than anything this planet or its predators can throw at us. Cairo added, they might be stronger, faster, and more precise. But we're smarter and we won't stop. Every encounter teaches us something new. That's human strength. Rena, sitting on a rock and bandaged, smiled faintly. They won't see it coming next time. Not fully. We'll be ready. The human edge as night fell. Elena stood at the edge of the canyon looking out over Zythera's jagged expanse. Lightning flashed across the horizon, illuminating the jagged cliffs, the deep crevices, and the dark shadows where the DSF might be waiting. She thought of Earth, of humanity's history of survival against impossible odds. Natural disasters, predators, wars, and starvation. Humans had always endured, and here on Zythera they were proving it again. This is what makes us human, Elena said softly. Not strength, not speed, not perfect adaptation, but courage, creativity, and the refusal to surrender. That is why we survive where others fail. That is why humanity cannot be defeated. The team gathered around her, their faces illuminated by the faint glow of camp lights. Each one carried scars, each one bore fatigue, but none carried doubt. They had faced one of the deadliest forces in the galaxy, and they had survived, learned, and turned the battlefield to their advantage. Elena's eyes met theirs. We fight smarter, we endure longer, and we adapt faster than any enemy expects. That is our advantage. That is why no one survives facing us unprepared. That is why humans are unstoppable. The DSF may return, stronger, faster, and more aware. But humanity had already proven a simple truth. Brains, courage, and teamwork could defeat even the most terrifying predator. And Zythera, the planet that was meant to kill them, was slowly becoming a proving ground, a place where humans would learn, adapt, and ultimately triumph. The first light of Zythera's alien sun barely pierced the jagged horizon when Captain Elena Voss and her squad emerged from the cave network. The air was cold and sharp, but a sense of purpose carried them forward. After days of survival, encounters, and learning, the humans had gained something no one had ever seen before on Zythera, an advantage over the DEATHWORLD or Special Forces, DSF. Elena scanned the rocky terrain below. The DSF were near, patrolling cautiously, aware that humans were not the helpless prey they expected. Her pulse quickened, not with fear but with determination. Humanity had survived Zythera's deadliest hunters, and now it was time to prove their ingenuity could turn the tables entirely. We've learned everything we can from the previous encounters, Elena said quietly to her squad. Today we strike not just to survive, but to control the battlefield. Every trap, every device, every maneuver must work together. Humans endure because we think, adapt, and fight smarter than anyone expects. Cairo nodded. They'll come at us hard, but they can't anticipate everything. Our unpredictability is our weapon. Mira adjusted the drone systems and sensors. The environment is our ally now. We've mapped hazards, set traps, and controlled choke points. This is where humans show they can survive anything. Holt smiled faintly, checking the timing circuits on the improvised explosives. Let's give them a welcome they won't forget. The final confrontation, the DSF approached, cautious and calculating. This time, their movements were slower, more deliberate. They had observed the humans, adapted to the traps, and learned some patterns. But humans were unpredictable. That was the one thing the DSF could never anticipate. The squad waited silently, hidden in a canyon where jagged rocks formed a natural labyrinth. Crystalline structures were rigged to collapse. Patches of moss were prepared to emit blinding mist, and drones hovered just out of sight, ready to distract. Every step the DSF took was being guided into carefully calculated traps. Elena signaled to her team. Remember, precision over power, timing over force. Let's show them what humans can do when they refuse to lose. The DSF lunged at the first decoy, triggering a cascade of collapsing rocks and blinding flashes. It roared in frustration but pressed forward, driven by instinct and determination. The humans moved quickly along hidden ledges, striking from distance with pulse shots, forcing the DSF deeper into the trap zone. The predator was fast, stronger than any human, but here, in this canyon of human design, its advantages were neutralized. Each move it made was anticipated, countered, or disrupted by environmental hazards and coordinated attacks. Turning the tables as the DSF struggled to navigate the collapsing canyon, Elena activated the final part of the plan. Holt triggered a series of controlled rock falls that forced the predator into a narrow passageway. The pulse rifles fired in precise bursts, disorienting the DSF while drones swarmed from above, flashing lights and creating auditory confusion. The humans had transformed Zithra's hostile terrain into a battlefield they could control, proving that adaptability and ingenuity were more powerful than brute strength. The DSF for the first time hesitated. It was clever, yes, but humans were unpredictable. Elena's voice was calm but firm through the comlink. Now everyone focus. Push it back. Make every move count. The DSF lunged one last time, attempting to escape. But the canyon funneled it toward a final trap, a reinforced crystalline chamber rigged to collapse. The predator crashed against the walls, momentarily stunned. Pulse shots hit weak points in its armor-like skin. Every step, every action, had been anticipated and countered. For the first time, the DSF realized it had underestimated humanity. Its movements slowed, its roars echoed with frustration, and then it retreated. Victory, hard fought. The humans exhaled collectively. It was over for now. Zithra was still dangerous, the DSF were still alive, but humanity had achieved the impossible. They had survived and gained the upper hand against the deadliest predators in the galaxy. Elena lowered her rifle, her body exhausted but her spirit soaring. "This is what survival looks like," she said. "We faced the impossible and endured. Every trap, every strategy, every risk. It worked because humans adapt, humans endure, and humans never give up." Rena, still bandaged from earlier injuries, smiled faintly. "They won't forget this," she whispered. "And neither will we." Mira checked the drones and sensors one last time. "The data we collected, it will teach Earth everything we need to know about these predators. They thought humans were prey, but we proved that intelligence, courage, and creativity make us unstoppable." Holt nodded. "We may have taken losses and the danger isn't gone, but the lesson is clear. Humans survive when no one expects them to." Reflection on human strengths. The team gathered near the edge of the canyon. Watching the DSF retreat into the shadows, Elena spoke quietly. "Strength is not just physical. Intelligence, courage, teamwork, and the ability to adapt, those are what make humans formidable. The DSF are fast, strong, and precise, but we are unpredictable, creative, and determined. That is why no species, no matter how perfect, should ever underestimate humanity." Cairo added, "We endured losses, but each one taught us something. Every encounter made us stronger, smarter, and more ready for the next challenge." Elena nodded. "Yes, humanity's power lies not in perfection, but in the refusal to surrender. That is our legacy. That is why we survive where others fall." Even Rena, exhausted and battered, lifted her head. "We're not just surviving," she said. "We're learning. And learning is how we win." A message to Earth. Elena activated the comlink, sending a transmission across the void of space. "Earth, this is Captain Voss. Zithra is a death world, but humans endure. We faced the Death Worlder Special Forces and survived. We have proven that courage, intelligence, and adaptability can overcome even the deadliest predators. Humanity cannot be underestimated. We endure, we learn, and we fight." The message crackled across the galaxy, carrying both hope and a warning. Humanity had survived where no other species had. The DSF were formidable, but humans had shown that even the most engineered predator could not predict the strength of human creativity and courage. Looking ahead, as the squad rested, Zithra's alien landscape stretched endlessly before them. Lightning flickered across jagged cliffs. Rivers of molten metal glimmered in the distance, and storms still rumbled faintly on the horizon. But the humans were ready. They had survived, adapted, and turned the battlefield in their favor. Elena gazed at her team. "They may return stronger, faster, smarter," she said. "But we have something they can never replicate, the human spirit. We endure, we adapt, and we fight smarter than anyone expects. That is why no one survives facing us unprepared. Mira smiled faintly. They don't understand fear or hope, Captain. But we do. That's our advantage, Elena nodded. Exactly. This is only the beginning. Cythera will continue to test us, but we will endure. Humanity survives because we refuse to surrender, and that is a lesson no one can ignore. The squad looked out over the alien horizon, tired but unbroken. They had faced the deadliest hunters in the galaxy, endured Cythera's horrors, and survived. Humanity had proven its strength. Courage, intelligence, adaptability, and the refusal to surrender could overcome even the most perfect predator. And somewhere, deep in the shadows of Cythera, the DSF observed and learned. The humans had won the battle, but the war was not over. Yet for now, humanity had proven its place. Unpredictable, enduring, and unstoppable. Captain Elena Voss exhaled slowly, feeling the weight of exhaustion and triumph alike. Humans had survived Cythera's deadliest forces. They had endured when no one thought they could. And they would continue to endure, adapt, and fight because that was the true strength of humanity. Cythera was dangerous. The DSF were deadly. But humans had survived. And in that survival lay a promise to the galaxy. Never underestimate humanity.